Hello, my little Luxes. This is another episode of Coffee and Cosplay, and I'm your host, cosplayer Charcy Lux, and I am now the afterlife of the party, and I welcome you to another episode of Coffee and Cosplay, but this one is going to be on brand with the month of May's theme of Urban Legend Scares. And hello again. Hello! And welcome if you were brand new to the channel. And on brand from what I keep saying over and over again, that all freaks and weirdos, all of us are welcome on this channel, and we talk about the unusual, the strange. Usually we talk a lot about horror and horror themes. And for this one, we are talking about one of my favorite types of ghost stories, which are urban legends, which stem from folklore and the fact that urban legends have always been a part of our lives and society. This last episode that I did for Urban Legend Scares, I talked about the 1998 film Urban Legend. So I hope you went and saw that. So if you enjoy movie reviews, I would suggest to definitely check that out. But if you are brand new to the channel, please like, please subscribe, please join the Luxie family. I have been doing with my theme months and everything that one of the things that I've been focusing on is coffee and cosplay, because it's supposed to be way more relaxed. It's me basically talking about things about my life, and it being simpler videos for me to be able to edit. Joke's on me, because I put so much into my editing, even for my coffee and cosplay episodes, because obviously I love getting into costume and makeup, and now I've been doing this funny thing that I've picked up from two of my favorite YouTube channels, which is Luxaria and Rolly, where they do funny GIFs in between, like just little reactions, and I find that it makes videos more funny, more relatable, and I've really been enjoying adding these clips. Well, they are adding these clips and GIFs into my episodes and everything. Obviously, my tame ones now have been my ghost stories, but with today, I am doing an urban legend that is from my hometown. Now, I honestly do not know if this was one that my dad just pulled out of his ass, because he would make up ghost stories on the spot all the time. I don't know if this was a local urban legend from my hometown that he knew, or if this was one that he just made up on the spot. And my dad had a reputation of being able to remembering these stories that he would tell us on the spot, and that constantly we would always come back to him and be like, tell us this story again, tell us again. And this one is the urban legend of Goatman's Road. I must have a crack in this cup or something, because this thing is spilling everywhere. Hold that thought while I clean up this mess.
A few moments later.
Apparently I should have had a bib today, but whatever. We'll just have a paper towel on hand, because I apparently forgot how to drink out of a cup today, so I don't know. This is the entertainment that you get for coffee and cosplay. My town's local urban legend that my father would tell me and my brother and my friends all the time was the urban legend of Goatman's Road. Now, mind you, I lived in a very small town, but outside of it by about 10 minutes away. And so we lived in the countryside. And one of our favorite things to do was always to be out in the back roads of the country. But my dad knew a route that he would take these back roads to my brother's friend Andy's house. Now, one of these days that he was driving this back road, He had me, my brother, and that we were driving to, I can't remember if we were driving to pick up Andy or if we were driving to drop off Andy. I think this was one of the nights that we were dropping off Andy. And I think we were en route of heading home, because I don't remember Andy being in the car with us, but I do remember it being nighttime and Andy wasn't in the car with us. So I'm assuming, just because I can't remember everything from my past, it's almost impossible to get details 100% correct.
No. Oh no! Bad suit!
But either way, we dropped off Andy and we were on our way home on this back road called Louisa Road, which is a very creepy little road out in the country anyways, and it's a dirt gravel road. And all of a sudden, when you're driving down this road, you're going by a very old farm. Like, the fence is all broken up. You can tell that this farm hasn't had anybody living in it for years. It's completely abandoned, broken apart. You have the old brick farmhouse that all the windows have been smashed out of it. In fact, the door was missing. You had plant growth all over it, vines that were growing up the old brick stones. Along with this old brick farmhouse, you had other buildings that were completely falling apart. Most of them didn't have their roofs anymore. You just could tell nobody was living there anymore. My dad just points out to that farm and he tells me and my brother that that is the house of Goatman. And we're like, Goatman? And he's like, yeah, didn't you know we're driving on Goatman's road right now? And of course, me and my brother, being the interested children that we are, really wanted to know, okay, what is Goatman? And what do you mean we're on Goatman's road? And it's at night, so it's already a very spooky, creepy atmosphere. And my dad proceeds to tell us the story of the old farmer who used to live on that farm. That he would talk about that the land was cursed and that he couldn't figure out why this land was cursed. But when he would tell people, he's like, he couldn't keep a crop on that land and it wouldn't grow. The land was foul. It was bad dirt. And he never could grow anything. And when he would tell the townsfolk and other people, other neighbors would try and help him, they would get the same results that he did. It didn't matter what they used for fertilizer or what they tried to do to improve the land. The crops just would not grow. And if they would grow, what crops it would produce was foul and unusable. So then he decided, okay, well, while he's not having success with the crops and that, he decided that he was going to start raising cattle. So he had beef cattle on his land. But even then, like, the cows, they seemed to just be feral and just were very mean and aggressive cows, and that their meat just was tough. He was having absolutely no luck with anything that he was trying to do on this land. So between his crops not growing or with any kind of livestock that he tried to bring onto this land, it was the same results, that nothing he produced was successful on this land. So of course he started telling everybody about how it's just it's just cursed land, where even the farmer would talk about the fact that his wife had left him years ago because they couldn't produce anything on here. Supposedly they had tried to have children, but they were never successful and able to have children. But then when she went to her new marriage, she was able to have children with this man. So he just kept saying that it was this cursed land that he was living on. But no matter how much this man struggled, he had no opportunities to leave this land. This was his home, and he wasn't able to just sell it, because since it was so cursed and not good for crops or anything else, nobody wanted to buy this farmland. So this poor old man grew up on this land until he was at an old age. And all of a sudden the townsfolk started noticing that when this farmer was coming into town, he was acting very strange, very unusual for what would be his typical normal. Yay for the lawnmower again!
Boo! Boo!
This farmer, when he was coming to town, the townsfolk started noticing that he was talking to himself more. And that at first it seemed like he was talking gibberish. But then they started noticing that he kept repeatedly talking about Goat Man, the Goat Man. He's there. He's coming for me. Goat Man, he's going to come and get me. And of course, so some of the townsfolk, especially the preacher of the town, really feeling concerned for this old gentleman, start asking him questions, making sure that he's okay, and start asking him, who is this Goat Man that you're talking about? And the old man just keeps saying, he's like, Goat Man, he showed up at my house the other day and basically kept telling me to get out and that he didn't want me on his land anymore. And he just kept repeatedly talking about the Goat Man. And that when people kept trying to ask him to describe this thing, and all he just kept gibbering on about the same thing over and over again. I saw Goat Man and he wants me to leave and I'm not safe anymore. To the point where several days later, all of a sudden the townsfolk realized that it had been quite a while since anybody had seen the old man from the farm. A little bit more time started passing by to where a group of people, including the preacher of the town and some more townsfolk, decided to go out to the farmhouse to see if they could find the old gentleman. But when they go out to the farmhouse, they notice that it is completely abandoned and that nobody is there. And they can't find anything missing. So anything that would have been the belongings to this old man was still there at the house. It didn't look like there was a robbery, but the old man was just gone. And nobody ever saw him ever again. And the only thing that they were able to find that was on this land were these strange, really large hoof marks. So they couldn't figure out what these tracks were. And even later on, when they had the police and the doctor out there to even help them investigate, they kept coming to these tracks on the land. And the doctor said this is very strange because the way that these hooves are in the ground, it doesn't look like it's coming from anything with four legs. It looks like it walks like we do as people. It looks like it comes from something that is bipedal. Well, the townsfolk, of course, just kind of brushes all this off. Obviously, after some more time goes by and that this old man has never come around, there's nobody else in the family that has any interest in this because the old man, of course, had brothers, which then means he had nieces and nephews, but none of them wanted to inherit this house. Nobody wanted this land because they knew all the horrible stories that their brother or their uncle would tell them over and over again about this cursed land, so nobody wanted it. Look, I can drink it without dribbling on myself.
I am shocked! Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
So quite a bit of time goes by with this farm, and since it's officially an abandoned farm, abandoned land, it just became the place where over time that the teenagers would all go out there and they would have their parties. And of course, they would always do the truth or dare, and that it became this story about the old man and his goat man and the fact that he disappeared, that when they were out at these parties out at this farmhouse, which is poor place was starting to get more broken down. It was overgrown with nature and everything. But these teenagers, while they were out there, would dare each other to do different things out on this property, but you had to go and you had to do it alone. And one of the things for the dare was that during the party, they would have people go off into the woods by themselves just behind the house. One of these guys that they decided that they were going to dare him to go out back behind the house, and that he had to be back there by himself for 5 minutes, or else obviously it would truth or dare that you would be humiliated and ashamed with some kind of a prank afterwards if you didn't adhere to whatever the dare was. So this guy goes out behind the house and he starts wandering slowly into the woods. All he has with him is a small flashlight. But while he's out there, starts realizing that he's hearing strange sounds coming around him. And he can't figure out what it is. He can clearly tell it seems like it's an animal. And it seems to be getting closer and closer to him. Of course, in his head at first he's thinking, okay, this is the guys, they're trying to freak me out, it's just my friends, they have come out here to find some way to just scare the shit out of me. So he starts talking to the thing that he hears coming closer to him. He's like, very funny guys, ha ha, I can hear you, you're not funny. He starts to realize that this thing starts to kind of have this grunt, this kind of snorting sound, almost as if it's mocking him. To this teenage boy, it's not a recognizable sound. It all of a sudden dawns on him, this isn't my friends. This sounds like some kind of an animal. So now just he gets all these goosebumps and all of the hairs on his arms and legs are just standing straight on end, and he's getting all these signals. Something is not right. So knowing that he's not to the 5 minutes yet for his dare, but he doesn't care. He takes off and he just starts running back to the house to where his friends are. And in the last moment, when he finally reaches the point where the house is, and he turns and he looks towards the woods where he was at, and he could just make out the outline of something very large, very humanoid looking. But it's not a person. It was way too tall for that. This thing had to have been about 8 feet tall, and it was this big, black, bulky looking creature. And he could just make out the outline of it because his flashlight just barely could reach to the woods and to the tree line where this thing was standing. But he could tell this thing had 2 giant horns on the top of its head. And the boy just takes off back to the house where his friends are at. And as soon as he comes in, of course, his friends are mocking him and making fun of him and telling him, oh, you scaredy cat, you didn't last the 5 minutes. But he's just hollering at all them, and he's telling them, shut up, we need to get out of here. He goes, there's something here. And he's like, that old man was right. He was right about Goatman. Goatman is here. All the friends realizing that this guy is really freaked out. Because at first they're thinking, okay, maybe he's trying to play a prank on them now, but they can clearly tell that this guy is petrified and he is scared and he wants off the land. And of course, since he keeps repeating about Goatman, some of them, wanting to be braver, wanted to go and investigate. They go and they find the spot where the guy was standing, and they can't find anything there. But they do find several cloven hoof footprints in the ground. So they all take off and they leave. And after that, they started calling that farmland Goatman's land. But where the old man's farmhouse was, nobody else lived in the area. It was all just woods and fields. But because of this land not being fertile or good land, nobody else bought any of the land near this place. So it was the only place on the property for this road that if you passed by, several people would claim over time that at night, if you were on this road, you would sometimes see a mysterious figure that would come to the road, and it would be this large, black, looming, humanoid-looking thing that would always come to the road, or it would pass it just before a vehicle would come along, just so close to the farmhouse. But as soon as you would see this humanoid creature, just as fast as you noticed it, it was gone. But you'd always have to think in your head, did I really see what I saw? Because you would swear you saw a giant goat man with its giant black curled horns on its head. So over time, Louisa Road was called Goatman's Road. And it was always said, don't ever travel alone on Goatman's Road, because you may not come back. Just like the old man said, Goatman is going to get me. So of course, as me and my brother are listening to our father telling us this story about Goatman, and this was the first time he was telling us about Goatman on Goatman's Road, and as children, we are fascinated, but we are also freaking out as well. And over time and over years of us driving down this road and telling our friends, and we always loved listening to ghost stories and urban legends from my dad, that we would always want to pile in the truck, especially so that we could sit in the back of the truck. Back in the days when you could sit in the back of the truck and it wasn't a big deal. But he would drive us down Goatman Road, and he would have the back cab window open, and he'd be talking about Goatman, and that if we were very quiet, and he'd drive very, very slowly down this gravel road, and me and my friends were always freaking out and thinking, did you hear that? Oh, did you see that? Maybe that was Goatman there. And obviously, the story would always advance and change over time, and that he would have different stories, different themes, but it was always the same premises, that it was Goatman's Road, and that it came on this abandoned farmhouse. Now, I grew up loving that, and obviously with my dad telling my brother's friends and my friends, and us telling cousins and other family members, that over time we started realizing more and more people were talking about Goatman's Road, and that more people were traveling out there to see the farmhouse for Goatman's Road. I wish I would have been able to ask my dad at one point in time to find out if this was an urban legend that he had heard, or if this literally was just something he decided to tell us on the spot, because of how many times we had drove over to either pick up or drop off Andy, and we would take this back road, and that out of nowhere, for the first time ever, he told us the story. Knowing my dad, he probably saw that abandoned house and decided, hey, I'm going to tell my kids this scary story. Well, then us over time kept going, hey, tell us about Goatman's Road again. Tell us about Goatman. And till it would develop to where even me and my friends would drive out there, and that the dare was that you had to get out of the vehicle and you had to walk by yourself on this road and see how far you could go before you freaked out and had to go back to the vehicle where everybody was.
Run away! Run away! Run away!
But I wish I would have asked my dad. Obviously, we don't think in our lives that you're ever going to lose somebody that's in your life, and I wish I would have been able to ask him before he had passed away to find out, was that just something you made up, or is that actually a local urban legend? But it became a local urban legend because of my father, because like I said, we were talking about this, and then this is how stories develop, and a friend would tell another friend, and then it became a truth or dare thing where people would go out to that road. And unfortunately, also because of that, people were going out to the abandoned farmhouse as well. And unfortunately, you have those people that take advantage of abandoned places and have their parties and everything out there. Unfortunately, that farmhouse doesn't exist anymore because eventually, I'm not sure, it's whoever owns the property now had torn down the house and any of the other buildings that were on the property. So unfortunately, the old brick farmhouse is not out there anymore, but Goatman's Road still exists. So throughout this story, I was hopefully sharing some footage of Louisa Road, or Goatman's Road as it is right now. So the local urban legend, as far as I know, still lives on in that town. And on top of that, the fact that even after me and my friends had grown up, I do know that several of my friends have told their kids the story of Goatman's Road. And even kids that I used to babysit, we used to tell them about Goatman's Road. So I think there's a strong possibility that the urban legend of Goatman's Road still exists to this day in my local town. And it might actually be an urban legend that my father made himself. So that is my legacy right there. I greatly hope that you enjoyed this urban legend from moi, from my dad. So from my family to your family, I hope that you can find an abandoned farmhouse somewhere out where you live and a very lonely old dirt road, and that you can tell the story of Goatman's Road, about the abandoned farm and about the mysterious 8-foot tall black figure with long black horns that looms over the old road, and to never travel on this road alone because you might not ever come back. So, thank you so much for joining me here on another Coffee and Cosplay, and thank you so much for coming back and for joining me and for also sharing your stories and what are some local urban legends that you have. Like, where are you at that some of your urban legends? I mean, especially I love urban legends. They are fascinating to me, and that's where most of our horror stories stem from, are these original urban legends and folklore. And obviously they were supposed to have morals to them, to give warnings to people. I mean, I kind of talked about this when I talked about Rawhead and Bloody Bones, but yes, I would love to know urban legends that are from your area. But thank you once again for joining me here for this month's theme of Urban Legend Scares. And if you would like to follow me on my other social medias, please follow me on my Twitter for Charcy Lux with 3 X's, or on my Instagram for Charcy87. And once again, I am the afterlife of the party. But this little party goer was very wise and very smart, and she knew to stay away from that very old brick farmhouse, because I didn't want to get gobbled up by Goatman. But my little Luxes, I hope you have a Luxy Charms kind of day. Bye! But if you are brand new to the channel, please please subscribe. On this farm was other buildings that just definitely was foul and unusual. And